Merry Christmas to you and your family this holiday season. Thanks for listening to CFC's Daily Christmas Podcast. We hope that this podcast, from the staff of CFC, encourages you and inspires you this holiday season. We would love to invite you to join us on December 23rd at 10 a.m. for Acoustic Christmas and December 24th at 4 or 6 p.m. for Christmas Eve. For more information, visit our website, www.cfcwired.org.
I love teachers, and I love teachers in the account that we often identify as the Christmas story. Traditionally, we often turn to Mary, and we think of Mary as a teacher in the text. We think of Joseph teaching us things in the text. We think of wise men and the angels, and even the shepherds stand as teachers in the text. But I want to suggest that we focus yet on another teacher in the text that we don't talk about too often. I would contend that the initial itchy wool blanket of silence is actually a teacher in the text as well. Although mysterious, the silence of God is one of the most formidable and dynamic teaching tools of God. You see, in our Christian experience, we love the affirmative yes voice of God. Yes to the better job. Yes to a new house. Yes to success on my final exams. Yes to a new car because that 1971 Pinto is cramping my style. When God speaks and it's an apparent no, although we dislike God's no, we eventually usually adjust and we try to maturely accept his no. But it's his silence. It's God's silence that carries an extra challenge for us because it's difficult for us to interpret the meaning of silence. One of the things that I'm going to do often this Christmas season is pull away from the hustle and the bustle of gift buying and all of the good times with family and friends, and I'm going to give myself the gift of silence. When the angel Gabriel appeared, his appearance broke what had been an unprecedented period of silence in the faith community. Some 400 years had gone by since the voice of God had been heard through a prophet. We often refer to those 400 years either as the intertestamental period or the 400 silent years. 400 years of community and individual contemplation. 400 years of consternation. 400 years of testing. In our modern era of constant sound and movement, there is much to be considered with regard to the value and the meaning of silence. We do well to slow our pace and wisely contemplate this often ignored teacher called silence. Silence can sometimes signal God's displeasure regarding what's going on in our lives. And then sometimes silence can mean God is using the silence to speak, because in some instances he knows that his silence is actually what will get our attention the quickest. Silence is not overtly pronounced in the Christmas story text, but nevertheless it's there, both as an introduction to the story, and then it weaves itself between the nights and the days and the drama that follow, because there is yet much that is still clearly not understood. I believe we actually catch hints of how to manage our discomfort with the silence of God in Galatians chapter 4, verse 4, where the Apostle Paul says, "In the fullness of time, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law. Now, don't miss the two factors in play in that text. One, time and its dimensions start with God. For the text says that in the fullness of time, God. Secondly, notice in that text that God's Son was born of a woman. And so we see in this instance, God often gives us the high privilege of participating in what he's up to in time. Yes, when God broke his silence, and this is important, when God broke his silence, Mary was living in a way that positioned her to participate in the break in the silence. This Christmas, let's embrace the reality that even in his silence, God still speaks and God can be trusted. If there is silence in a troubled parenting situation, remember God can be trusted. When there is silence in a worrisome employment situation, remember God can be trusted. Even if in this Christmas moment a crisis of faith looms on the horizon, the God of silence can speak through the silence or pierce the silence at the very moment you need him the most. Silence can teach us to think with our hearts. Silence can teach us to trust the warm embrace of the comforting Spirit of God. In this noisy world of motion, God's silence stands ready and able to teach if we're ready to listen to silence and learn. Yes, get yourself a gift for Christmas. Steal away at some point and give yourself the gift of silence. Amen.
This has been a podcast devotion of CFC. Please join us on December 23rd and 24th, and Merry Christmas.